Our first guest today is the founder of local advocacy group Justice for Black Lives. Sherri Darlene is here in studio. We are going to talk about liberatory consciousness. But before we get there, Sherri, you have a book. I have a book. I know you just finished leading some sessions about white fragility. I've been reading this book. I wasn't part of your sessions, as you know, but it's a real eye-opener for me. I see myself in a lot of the comments, and I see where I've displayed this white fragility kind of attitude.
Yes, Robin DiAngelo, she wrote this book for white people about a system. And again, like I've always said, we have to stop focusing on the individual acts of hate and really pay attention to the systems that's facilitating this, where there's very little consequences when Black pain happens to Black bodies, the injustices to Black bodies, the entire system. There's not one system that racism hasn't tainted, so to speak. So every realm, every system, and she really exposes and puts that spotlight on that system in this book.
She's a white woman. This is not a Black person giving me, I guess, telling me what I've been doing wrong. It's a white person telling me what I've been doing wrong. And I think that makes someone like me read it with a little bit more of an open feeling towards what she might be saying.
I feel like it does because, as I was mentioned earlier, when I, throughout my years, have spoke about racism to other white people, I encountered white fragility all the time. I just didn't have the word white fragility to apply to it. So I think it's fantastic that she is a white woman and she did write this book. Matter of fact, when I first read it, I literally would put the book down and walk around the room and think, yes, thank you. Because it's so much easier to dismiss me as an angry Black woman. Whereas you can't do that in this book. This is a white woman who looks like you, one of your peers, and she's telling you, making you aware of this system that you've been oblivious to, or the standard norms have been embedded in you through a system of white supremacy, whether you wanted it to or not.
I would recommend that everybody reads this book. You're holding on to another book, Don Lemon. What is this book all about?
This book is called This is a Fire by Don Lemon. I have to first tell you that I was so shocked at how well this book was written. Not that I don't like Don Lemon, I just was really shocked. There were tears. I got tearful in this book, but he really gives us an idea of what it's going to take to do a major shift, have a major shift in the world when it comes to anti-racism work. It's profound. He visits, him and his mother, they visit the slave castle where they held the slaves before they put them on the ships. And it was just really tearful. Reading the words, like I said, it was so well written. But more importantly, he brings focus to how we implement this change. And he also exposes that system, what it was like from when he was a little boy. He also speaks about his white grandfather that he really didn't know about. And his grandmother was a product of that relationship. She was interracial, very fair-skinned, and that even though he was the slave owner, they were obviously in love and he wanted to do the right thing. So the house that his grandmother lived in was a house purchased by his great-grandfather, who was a white man, and his grandmother was his only living child. So he unfortunately took his own life, but they wonder, was it because of the agony that he could not be a father to his only daughter because she was of a different, she was biracial.
Right.
So it's so much profoundness in this book. I can't stress enough, please go read this book. Don Lemon has written it so well. And then this is where the liberatory consciousness came into me, as I mentioned to you when we were discussing earlier. I had read about liberatory consciousness. It kind of went over my head because I thought, as a Black person, we're kind of born with liberatory consciousness. And it didn't really occur to me that white people weren't. And when I read Don Lemon's book, he has a verse here in the back of the book on page 179. And he writes, "Imagine the life-changing, world-shifting power of solidarity between people of color and people of conscience." And liberatory consciousness is 4 A's. There's 4 components to liberatory consciousness, and that is awareness, analyze, action, and accountability. So with awareness, that's when you become aware and you remove yourself out of that state of denial.
I can't become a person of color, but I can become a person of consciousness.
100%, right? So again, as I mentioned, this country, this world has been in denial about the Black pain, what's happened to Black people, minimize it. Once you become aware that there's a system of oppression, that's where your first aid comes from in liberatory consciousness. So you become just aware of this system that Robin DiAngelo is talking about. This is probably stage one in your anti-racism work, as it's a journey, right? It doesn't stop. There's no end date for this. You just continue to grow in your work. So you go from awareness to analyze. So when you become aware and you step into analyze, you begin to notice different language, notice different behavior, whereas you wouldn't have noticed that before if you weren't aware, right? And then you move down to action, and you
taking action against
taking action. What does that mean? What does that look like? Does that mean that means going out into your community, finding where you can assist in this? Where do you want to be in this? Vet the organizations. Look how you can be an asset to your community. Find out, I always tell people there's fires everywhere because, like I said, there's not a system that has not been touched by racism. Find something that speaks to your heart, that you're passionate about, and find out how you can get involved. If you don't want to be involved that way, find out how you can donate. And then we move down to the last A in liberatory consciousness, which is accountability. And accountability is actually taking that action, going to that organization, donating that money. Maybe if you know someone who, like myself, and you want to assist me, you can call me and ask me, how can I be an asset? Maybe it's helping me hand out flyers. Maybe it's letting me use your printer. Because again, everything's nonprofit. Everything that I do for Justice for Black Lives comes out of my own pocket. So there's all kinds of ways that you can go out there and help. And liberatory consciousness, I think for white people, that's kind of where it begins. When it's liberation worker is what Dr. Barbara Love calls it. She is the one that came up with liberatory consciousness. And I think it's a great start to becoming an active ally.
I know you just led these sessions. Was it at the library, the Niagara Falls Public Library?
We actually haven't started yet. It starts on March 16th.
It's starting on March 16th.
We're doing chapter by chapter. That's how important I think white fragility is. We are going to sit and just like the conversation we had, is there anything you don't agree with? Is there something you're confused with? Let's really talk about what she wrote, because she's really dissecting that system that so many people who are not of color really aren't aware the depth of it, you know?
Right. And how can people get involved in this? Is it already full?
Yeah, you just go to the Niagara Falls Public Library website, and we do have limited seating, so you do have to register. I'm not sure what the numbers are for the start date, but I'm pretty sure there's some seats left. And yeah, go register. And I'd love to see you there. Let's do this.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a great book, and it's a great thing to do, to go through it chapter by chapter. I hope you get a great turnout. Thanks for coming in once again.
Thanks for having me, Mike.